Welcome back once more to Joshua's Magic. We're having the synthesis chat today. Discussion on magic as promised at the end of the last synthesis chat. I'm joined, as always, by my friend and associate Nick Taylor from the Art of the Dive YouTube channel. You know, that's where he's from. He didn't exist before that channel occurred, and then he sprang forth from it, you know.
Yes, I was born with a mission at least.
The channel's not from him, he's from the channel, right? You know, as people say. But I wanted to try something different today, or rather, I was impressed to try something different, which is we're going to break this video into two parts and have sort of an occult or magical experiment with it, where me and Nick are going to talk about some initial thoughts on magic and synthesis and how they relate. And then we're going to have part two in a week or two, perhaps, and we're going to take audience questions and comments and so forth and synthesize them and let that inform where we go forth with this, you know. So each of you out there, you know, put a comment on the video, what you thought about it, what occurs to you, if you had any questions, and you know, we'll all synthesize sort of the higher will or the magic we've got going there. You know, see what we can each bring down, synthesize that, and hopefully that'll be more powerful than just me and Nick synthesizing. So without further ado, let's begin our discussion on magic. What do you say, Nick?
Let's do it.
All right. So there's certain elements in magic, and I want to sort of look at these not stereotypes, these themes. So there's magic words, you know, certain words that are spoken, like in Excalibur, Merlin has the charm of making. Anal Nathrak, Uthvas Bethad, and he uses that throughout the movie. You know, that's one example of magic words, these specific sounds that lead to this power. And then there's other elements of you know, certain hand gestures that are needed, often material components like a bit of rose or some gum arabic or a feather. You know, somehow this is needed for the spell,
Yeah.
or, or even a focus like a magic wand or a crystal. Another element is drawing a circle or some sort of ritual diagram, right? Or the ritual of people moving in certain configurations, and also other implements like a dagger. I guess that would go along with the focus. But these are all sort of like the symbols of magical work. Do you have anything to add to that? Other sort of symbols that are part of magic?
That are associated with magic. I mean, not so much. I mean, you could add that like the what I guess you'd call the bastardized form of magic of like you know, rabbit out of a hat stuff is you know, still borrows certain specific elements. Like I guess I'm saying you can see in the corruption of the original idea of magic some of the more durable concepts remain even in the corruption, like the waving the hands around and the wand and stuff.
Yeah, there you go. There's a little bit of it there. So whether putting aside the reality of those things for a second, we can sort of look at them symbolically and see what they're saying. So let's take the diagram, you know, the pentacle or whatever circle with symbols, you know, you put down to invoke some sort of spirit or conjure some energy. What do you think about that symbolically? How could we look at that in a different way?
So the symbolism of the pentacle specifically, or?
Well, you know, you draw the magician's diagram and then you cast the spell to bind a spirit into it or to summon some energy or protect you from something. You know, the magic diagram.
um the symbolism of the magic diagram itself.
Yeah, you know, you think about that concept and then what could that symbolize? How
Well,
could we apply that to other things?
I mean, I don't know how symbolic this is. I think part of what it does is it focuses the mind and, you know, one's mind and one's energies in a certain direction. You know, to look at a particular symbol, especially if you have a pre-existing understanding of its meaning in the context of some tradition, maybe. And of course, the thing about symbols is if it's a potent symbol, it could also have an inherent sort of unconscious meaning to it, right? But it focuses the mind in a certain direction, which then sort of sets things in motion. It sets your energies in motion in a certain rhythm, and in a certain direction, let's say, that will achieve the magical work, God willing.
So it's sort of like your mind, it can be focused on material things. And if you change the material things, then you make it easy for your mind to go in the direction you want it to go.
What magic, one way of looking at magic is that it's making the real more visible and the visible more real. So it's sort of bringing down, these sort of eternal or immutable principles, or these things which are in the higher ethers, sort of. It's bringing them into manifestation, and it's sort of enlivening matter. It's enlivening that which is, seen and felt, with a certain reality, right? With a certain a certain spirit that gives it a more living or a more real quality.
Yeah, with white magic tapping into the deeper, more real levels of reality and manifesting that outwardly.
Right.
And it's like that diagram is like tracing the pattern of it, right?
Um, I guess you could say that.
Yeah, like the architect draws up his plans, right? It's sort of like you put this plan out there, and then the plan is like an anchor for the idea to come down and to be built. So that's one way you can sort of see magic synthetically, right? Instead of the literal, oh, I waved a hat and now there's a rabbit, right? So, like, you could say manifestation. How do you manifest something? What's the process of that? You could look at that as magic.
Mhm.
Aleister Crowley gave a definition of magic. He was something like the art of affecting change. Isn't that right, Nick? Isn't that what it was? Or,
I don't recall that, but I could believe it.
but he said with the instrumentality of my typewriter, I'm able to affect change on this paper. So he was kind of like, I don't really like that definition because I don't think that's accurate. But it does speak to this sort of synthetic quality of magic creating change, right? Like you could punch a hole in the wall, like, oh, that's magic. No. But J.J. Dewey had this definition, which I think is pretty good, and I think he was perhaps inspired by understanding of the seventh ray to say this. But magic is taking energies from non-physical planes of existence and manifesting change or affecting change on the physical level with them.
Right.
And
That's basically what I was talking about.
yeah,
Yeah, so I came up with it, not JJ.
but he said it years ago. Your
Uh,
homage to what JJ said.
well,
But yeah, these different definitions have some value. But no matter what the exact definition is, if you can sort of look at the theme there and apply it to other stuff, it has value to all levels of existence. Magic does, right? Even if you're not doing what looks like stereotypical magic, you can principally be doing the same thing as magic, even if it's not technically magic.
yeah, yeah.
So what do you think? Let's go through some of the other things, like magic words. What do you think about that symbolically?
The symbolism of magic words. Well, magic words, I suppose the idea of a magic word is that you're contacting some unseen part of reality, right? Because I mean, the essence of a word is communication, right? Subconsciously, the idea is almost that someone must be hearing it, or there must be something set up somewhere that responds to that vibration. So a magic word is a great example of something that connotes other realms that are being communicated with, let's say. The unseen that's being brought into being.
Yeah, to call forth and to get a response, right?
Yeah, and I mean, it's also like with the image, it's like focusing your own mind in a certain direction. And that's essentially what words do in the first place.
To align your being in a certain direction or with a certain power. And
Yeah.
when you're aligned, you can move forward more powerfully than you could if you were scattered.
Yes.
It's just in these sort of ritual tools to focus yourself.
Yeah. Well, that's I suppose that's what it's all about, right? I mean, it's you're sort of full of all these kind of nearly boundless potentials, right? I mean, there's just thinking about it sort of mathematically, there's millions and millions of things that you could do within your lifetime, right? So it's sort of about focusing yourself in the right ways and in the right sequence in order to make certain things happen.
So let's touch on the last one, or one of the last ones, the magic wand or the implement, the focus or the implement. Maybe we can include the material components in that too. But you know, the crystal or the wand or the dagger that's used in the magic spell casting it, or the ritual of casting the spell. What do you think about the symbolism of that?
It's bringing it down to the physical, but also bringing the physical up. It's like, what if you're using a dagger or even a wand, you're using your sort of you're putting your biceps into it, and it's a real it kind of triggers the parts of your brain that are associated with physical exertion, but it's for something that ultimately isn't physical exertion, right? I mean, you're not actually cutting, you know, uh, uh, an animal open with a dagger or something.
Well, in some magic rituals.
Well, in traditions other than our own, but there's yeah, or with the wand, obviously, it's like you're sort of rolling your sleeves up, you're getting into that mindset, but at the same time, you talk about focus. It's like, so your focus becomes ambivalent in a way that opens up a certain new possibility, right? It's like you're in that physical mind state of like, I'm rolling up my sleeves, but it's also like, oh, that's not actually what I'm doing. It's not actually for the purpose of some physical exertion. I'm bringing something down, you know, and
Yeah,
bringing the physical up.
it's this sort of ritual thing.
Yeah.
And there's I guess the mapping on to what already exists, right? Like a diagram's kind of flimsy. It's just something that you sort of create. But a crystal or a wand or a dagger is this object that's really already exists and is really real and tangible, right?
Yeah.
So it's sort of like you're mapping on something that you're trying to bring down and connecting it with something that already exists that's real and tangible.
Yes.
And if it was a crystal or something that's somehow real or not real, connected to the inner world, then it's like that's a tool, right? You can use this as a channel. I mean, you're a channel ultimately for the magic, but potentially the wand or the crystal or the dagger is also acting as a channel.
Yeah.
And so what I mean, let's apply this to other things. Like what are channels people could use in affecting change or in relationships, and what do you think?
I don't know what you mean exactly.
You know,
Channels.
so you've got like you, but then you can use something as a focus or a channel for changing something or moving things forward.
I mean, I don't know if this is what you're looking for, but just like, pointing out metaphors to people. If you're talking about relationships, for example, you could be like, behold the waterfall, and as the water, makes its way downward, so the course of our life, but like you can sort of use phenomena or objects to explain things to people and get them on the same page in a way that might not be possible otherwise. Right?
Yeah, it's good. It's like you could just tell them, this is how it is.
Yeah.
But when you have an analogy, you're like using this other thing, like a wand to sort of, in concert with your meaning, clarify it for them, to bring it together, that point of synthesis.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's also like, group therapy sessions, you could say. That might also be like drawing the diagram, right? Like you set up this order or this system, or use this tool to bring about this conscious change that, if the therapist just told you, well, stop it. You remember that Mad TV episode where the woman, tells the therapist, oh, I have these problems. He's like, oh, he listens to her, and then he's like, well, stop it. She's like, oh.
Yeah.
If just saying stop it was enough, then we wouldn't have to, do whatever. But, the back and forth of group therapy and leading that, group therapy session is sort of like the facilitator is like the hierophant of some ritual, right? Designed to bring out this healing in the consciousness of the participants.
I can agree. I think with group therapy, you're able to walk into the problem because it's made to be outside of yourself, right? It's like, I guess that's sort of like what we were saying with the ritual object. It's like the problem literally becomes something that encompasses, assuming it's something like, like I've run substance abuse groups. And so everybody there, they have a pretty similar problem, even if they also have pretty different situations. So it's sort of like, the problem literally surrounds you. You're literally inside of it, walking around it, looking inside it, and so that's possible because it's made to be outside of yourself, not just within.
Yeah, it's good you change up the situation, right? It's almost like you created the magic circle and invoked this spirit within you, right? This spirit of substance abuse, right? And now it's imprisoned in the circle, and you can sort of see it separate from yourself, right? And maybe bind it out there and exercise it from yourself.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I like that idea of the how do you say it, the hierophant?
Hierophant, yeah, hierophant. We'll have a days long argument of how to say it in the comments section.
Yeah, by next week I'll be an expert.
But I think it's a good place to leave it. We'll wait for some feedback and move forward as a group with this sort of ritual to enrich our understanding. This own, you might say, group therapy session in a sense, or this magic ritual, depending on how you're looking at it. Any closing thoughts, Nick?
No. I think we've said a lot. So I'll leave them with that to chew upon.
All right, you want to plug your channel or any upcoming projects you got going on?
Certainly, if you'd like to see me without a majestic magician's hood, I don't know why you would, but you could check me out on Art of the Dive, my YouTube channel. I talk about some current event stuff mixed with some, philosophical, psychological type insights. It's really a ball. You should go on over.
All right, and if you like this video, hit the like button. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't done so already, and hit the notifications bell so you get notified about new videos. And please do share the video. It supports the channel, helps us grow, and get some other people involved in this current experiment, and we'll see what kind of alchemy we can ring out together, whatever the word is there. So yeah, do share the video and get some people on board and see what magic we can work here. Till then, Anal Nathrak, Uthvas Bethad, Oh, yeah,
Disavow.